Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Magically Cruising, the cruise podcast where we share our personal cruise tips and reviews to help you make the most out of your next sailing. My name's Kieran, I'm an independent travel agent specializing in all things cruise, Disney, and North America, and I'm joined by my fellow co-host.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I write over at Cruising with Kids, and we share cruise tips and advice for not only cruising families, but now more cruising without families. Now they've all flown the
Yeah.
nest or not flown the nest, refusing to leave home but won't holiday with us.
So you still have the kids; they just won't go on holiday with you because they're
Yeah.
too cool at the moment. They'll be over that soon, and they'll be back on holiday with you. Today's episode, Sarah, is a topic we've been chatting about it, haven't we, for the past week, and we've been having this back and forth. Do we talk about it? Do we not talk about it? Because we try and stay on the more positive and the more fun and the kind of celebrating what is so great about cruise. But there's been a lot of news recently, particularly one big story in the press that I feel we should talk about because we've touched upon some of the consequences, I guess, of this recently. In prior episodes type of thing, but it's been an ongoing conversation, I think, and the media are kind of running with her at the moment. And I think both of us are getting I'm definitely getting frustrated anyway about the way the media are covering this particular story. So I think the general topic of this episode is going to be, are cruises safe? And we're going to kind of touch upon different reasons as to why there's a lot of myths out there and a lot of perception that cruises aren't safe. But we're going to piggyback off the current recent story that is in the press recently, and is the very tragic kind of death that has happened, and there's no beating around the bush on it. The death that's happened on MSC Virtuosa on one of the short sailings from the UK. It is terrible. It's awful that it's happened, but we kind of thought we would talk about that just in general, and what that means for the cruise industry, share our thoughts on it, and then just talk about a few other pointers as well to kind of myth bust or talk about some issues around, are cruises safe in general. So yeah, I know you're a bit more apprehensive about tackling this than I am, Sarah. I thought it was kind of not bullied you, but just kind of said to you, I think it'll be a good one for us to talk about because there's a lot to talk about around safety on board cruise ships in general.
Yeah, it is a hard one, isn't it? Because a family's lost a relative, and but well, I mean, what I thought of the short cruise, and it's almost like it was an accident waiting to happen, almost. And that just is horrible to say it, and I hate talking about it, but
No.
But then there's so much more positive to the cruise industry, and I think you can't let. I mean, it's just horrendous what's happened, and I think what the industry needs to do is learn from it.
Yeah, totally. This thing. So if people have missed the news, and I don't quite know how, because it's broken America as well. It's been around all the American news websites. Which is odd because these things happen quite frequently. And I don't want to make it out like as if it happens quite often, but this isn't an isolated one-off case. Fights break out on cruise ships all the time. And sometimes people have misdemeanors on board ships and they do pass away. So it's quite surprising that this particular story is flooding the news networks as much as it has. And we were literally, just before we were going on, trying to refresh on what the latest is with the story. So that we don't know the details of what's actually happened. All we know is that the MSC Virtuosa went on a short cruise, 2-3 night cruise, basically from the UK to Zeebrugge, and a fight broke out and somebody was killed basically as part of that situation. From what we can understand, there was a lot of hens and stag parties and a very kind of rambunctious crowd on this sailing, as there typically is on short cruises from the UK. And it seems like it kind of got a bit heated, a bit escalated, and it seems like a case of manslaughter by kind of, yes, there was a fight that broke out, and unfortunately it got more serious than it probably was intended to. So I don't think it was an intentional, as the original press was going out. The original press was making out that it was an intentional act, that somebody went on board the ship to commit murder. And that's how it was advertised or promoted in the press. Unfortunately, the press has been rewarded by covering in that way, and they're now running multiple articles pretty much daily with minor updates about this case as well. And I think that's the problem. The press love bad news about the cruise industry, and they kind of thrive on it, and they're sharing lots of updates about it, minor details. Like the guy was released on bail. That whole load of articles came out again about the fact that he was released on bail. And then now it's a case of a second person's been held over it. So there's a whole new flurry of articles now about it as well, type of thing. So it's awful what's happened, but I do feel like the press is kind of thriving on this story as well and spreading it quite a lot.
Do you know what I hate about the press? And do you know what? I've met 4 journalists in my life that have been nice to me as a blogger, so I don't really feel guilty saying this, but It's like in COVID again, all over again, isn't it? It's like in COVID, they slated the cruise lines, petri dishes for germs and da 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 da. But then they're the first ones that get invited on the bloody the things. It's like,
Do you get
oh,
what I mean?
everybody, the press, come on, come on. Well, and then they'll say, but right, do you know what? I'm in a press group, and a press agent put in this group the other day, I am looking for a press trip to take my daughter on holiday.
Really?
So it's not about, she wasn't looking for, it was anything. She didn't care. And that's, I'm not saying that all journalists are like that, and I'm sorry to the ones that aren't, but there are those that are there with the bad news, but then they're there
Yeah.
at every opening, and it just really gets my goat when you
Yeah.
support a brand and the press just get it all because they've got the bigger coverage. But I mean, I looked at some of these articles and they were all the same, and then they'd put latest update, and there was no update. It was just they'd worded it differently, so it's just all
Exactly.
clickbait. And they do so much damage to the industry, but then they go on and take the free cruise. And I was once on a press trip, right, and there was a journalist, and by the time the ship, we were doing the muster, she couldn't stand up.
Really? That drunk on the complimentary drinks that she was probably given with the free
Oh,
Wi-Fi they were
and
given as
we're
well.
there with our notebook taking notes. I mean, all right, we had a glass of wine, it's me and Donna, but we were there like photographing, taking notes. She didn't pick her camera up. She just used the press, and that's what gets my goat about that. Sorry, rant
Yeah.
over, but I just think,
No, and this is pretty much why I wanted to talk about this, is because there's multiple angles to this. Obviously, there's the fact that it happened, and it is terrible. I'm not defending what happened. It's awful. I'm not blaming MSC. I'm not blaming kind of the mini cruise, booze cruise crowd. I'm not blaming them for this situation at the end of the day. It is just a tragedy that's happened. This could have happened anywhere. It could have happened on land. It could have happened at the local pub. Like, the fact that it happened to be on a cruise ship just gives the media an angle to hook onto. So there's so many different layers to this current story that has frustrated me, hearing people and having people constantly talk about how bad cruise ships are. And I would never go on one because they're terrible and they're full of, the word in the UK that people are using of like, oh, it's full of chavs going on board type of thing. And for those in America, at least, in chavs are kind of like, somebody equated chavs to trailer trash, the equivalent in America. Like, I don't know if that's a suitable relationship, but kind of those people who are of like kind of lower income, they're going away, they're not very well behaved when they go away. That's what people are insinuating are going on board this ship.
it's a derogatory
Yeah.
term for somebody that not necessarily, don't, just because you haven't got a job, don't mean you're going to act like that, because there's
Yeah.
people with money that act like that as well.
Do you get what I mean?
I mean, we've got a news feed, Donna and I. We've got access to write news articles, but we chose not to cover that. We posted, reposted at the time why we wouldn't do a weekend cruise, because I thought, I'm not sensationalizing it, because you basically, those people are making money off of somebody's misery. I mean, that's what they do,
Yeah.
isn't it? That's what they do.
I think that's the unfortunate thing about this, isn't it? It's been blown out of proportion massively, I think, by the press and the media. And there are as well a certain proportion of people who don't like cruising in general, and they're riding that wave as well. And that's the people these articles are targeting. They're targeting the people who don't like cruising and giving them ammunition to then spout about like, oh, well, people get killed on cruise ships. And they're like, yeah, they also get killed walking the streets and crossing the road each day. Like, this is just, it's unfortunate, I think. And it's a shame that MSC themselves as well, because of the various press they get, are being targeted as well and attached to this particular incident. But from what I understand, and I know people, I know travel agents who were on board that sailing, and they said they didn't have a clue it was happening. It was handled so like tactfully by MSC on board that the majority of people, bear in mind, this ship's massive. It can take like 5,000 plus 6,000 people. Nobody was aware of what was going on. People were still enjoying their holiday. They still had an amazing time. Even like the fact people said like it returned to English waters. It hadn't left English waters. That's why it returned to English waters. It was still in English waters. There's loads of misinformation about it because, again, some of the type of press that's covering this, they don't do their due diligence. They just see another blog has written it or another website has written it, and they run with it themselves as well, and they don't put all the facts into it. The ship carried on. People didn't even know this happened until the ship landed back in the UK at the end of its voyage, and the police arrested the person, and they delayed disembarkation to give time to manage that situation. That's the only reason why people found out. But the entire time this ship sailed for 2 nights, nobody knew.
But the thing is, oh no, because we knew why the ship was out at sea.
Did you? I didn't. I
Yeah,
knew nothing
because
about it
it was
until it landed.
because whoever runs the MSC Virtuosa group put this thing and said, "We know what's happened. We're not discussing it." But I mean, I don't think you can. What was the word you used earlier? And you're right in what you're saying, but you're wrong. You can't blow somebody dying out of proportion. It's as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
But the slur on the industry, that's what's been blown out of proportion.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that's what you were meaning. But you know, people like to point out where we go wrong, like the princess
Yeah.
episode. Because I mean, so many groups. I don't know which, but there was a cruise ship the other day, and somebody had said, "Oh, they've taped the door up," and somebody had died in the cabin. And so, I wouldn't. You don't hear much of people getting killed on ships in fights. You see,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of fights lately, and I mean, we all joke and say it's carnival, but it's not, is it?
Yeah. It's
Um,
not. No. It's happening on Virgin, it's happening on Royal, it's happening on all the brands. There's a common denominator, and it's short cruises, which we keep talking about, but it's happening
mm.
on a lot of brands.
And I mean, you know, my opinion on that cruise. It was just like I would have got off before the cruise set off if I could have.
Yeah.
I had an amazing time with the people I was with, but I hated everything about that cruise. It was everything that's
Yeah.
wrong with cruising. It weren't necessarily the ship, it was the whole scenario. And then I think MSC did try to address that a bit because they reduced the alcohol, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah.
But obviously, I don't know. It's obviously a big revenue maker, but at what cost? And you know what? I know someone that went on the MSC cruise a couple of weeks before us, and I would say she hasn't got the highest standard of travelling. And she when she put she'd never go on again, I thought that's not good.
Really?
That's not good.
No.
So
It's the like MSC is a whole other conversation. We both don't sail MSC. I think I've been on a 7 night sailing with MSC. I had an overall okay time. I sell MSC. There are certain people who love MSC, so I'm not going to badmouth them per se. I know they're not right for me, and I think we've established that you're not a fan of what MSC's general positioning in the industry is. There's a big conversation about yacht club is the way to go forward. One day maybe we'll find out. But I do think like short cruises antagonize that problem, if you get what I mean. Like, you get it on all brands. I've had friends of mine who've gone on Royal from the UK on the short 2-3 night sailings, and they've equally said it's carnage, it's booze cruise,
mm,
it's Brits abroad who just want to get drunk and have a wild time. I was on Cunard of all brands on a 4 night sailing long weekend, and equally there were a bunch of lads around the pub constantly chaining beers the entire time. Now we're talking civilized pub culture, but even Cunard on their short sailings still get the bar huggers who are just there to get smashed and drink a lot on board type of thing. So it is just that proximity to being a short, long weekend sailing that will attract people who have gone on a booze cruise. That is what they are historically marketed. There's a reason why Princess have dropped pretty much all of them from their itineraries now. I think Princess do 2 a year, and they're really short, and they're in school time. I think they're really awkward times of the year, basically, because they don't want to attract the long weekend booze cruise, because they got a bad rep during COVID for doing those
mm.
staycations and the type of people going on board. They've never done them again since.
I mean, you're absolutely right because it's not that I am down on MSC, but it's because of that cruise. Had I not ever gone on that cruise and had I gone out of Miami on, is it Seascape or MSC World
Seascape,
Europa,
World
then
America, isn't it?
oh yeah. So if I'd have gone on them, I'd have probably because Jack's friends have been on. They went on World Europa and they loved it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's not necessarily the brand; it's my experience of the brand, and
Yes.
that's the problem. But it's also, which you see in a lot of the news, Galveston, Texas is the same.
Yeah, it's short cruises
Yeah.
generally. Like if you look at the common denominator on where you see all the fights breaking out on Carnival, if you see all the bad news, people who are missing the port, all these things, typically they will be short cruises, just because those cruise people are. And I get it. We all want to let our hair down. Like, trust me, I'm going to be very drunk on my Princess cruise. Like, I'm going to be enjoying myself and relaxing type of thing. We all want each other on holiday. I'm not having a go at people having a good time. Like, sounds like I'm like, don't go on ships and have fun. Just the sheer number of those people are a lot higher on a short cruise who are on there for a wild time rather than on a 7 night sailing. You get peaks and troughs. Not everyone's going to be having a wild night all 7 nights. People like me will do it 1 or 2 nights, and then the rest of it will be hungover in their cabins type of thing. It's a very different pace, isn't it?
But this is the problem, isn't it, with like I suppose it's like the hen stag culture, is that like places like Dublin and a lot of places now are banning, and a lot of hotels, a lot of spa hotels
Yes.
are banning hen and stag nights. So they've got to a stage where there's not actually anywhere to go. Where was we? Me and Chris went somewhere and there was a stag group on the plane, and as soon as I got to it, I thought, for God's sake.
Do you get what I mean?
Do you know what? They were fine and they were just having a good time and they didn't do anything wrong. But I mean, sometimes it's just the wrong place at the wrong time that trouble
Absolutely.
happens. But it's a lot of people together drinking a lot. Like country houses and a lot of these like Airbnbs, they're starting to ban big groups because of it. So cruise
More
lines
and
have
more, yeah.
obviously come in, you're welcome. And these people, I mean, we were talking about this off camera earlier that I knew somebody that got into trouble when I was 18, which was a long time ago, for having an argument in a pub, and he hit someone and they didn't die, but they were in hospital, and it got him in a lot of trouble. And he was a gentle giant. It was just a silly thing, and I think that's the thing with lots of alcohol, and you get on those ships, and it's like, right, we've got 2 days to make the most of this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
get on it. And I on that MSC cruise, I remember going to bed the first night. I was rough the next day, and you know me, I don't usually get rough on a cruise. It's like, but I was felt rough the next day, so I'd obviously had my fair share.
I definitely had my fair share on MSC. I was a mess for a whole day at sea in the Bay of Biscay. Like, it was not not a pleasant scene at all. As you say, I don't want to dwell on it too much because we don't know the answer at the end of the day. Like, they're still investigating the case. We don't know exactly what happened, but I think my initial reaction was seeing that it was murder, and it implied that it was intentional murder, and now it's looking like it seems to be a case of manslaughter via I don't want to use the misdemeanor because, again, I don't want this is not admissible in any sort of evidence. This is just going about what's being chatted about. But it does seem like there's been some sort of altercation on board that may have got out of hand. And let's pray it isn't an innocent accident that's happened
Yeah, but it should
via
never have
somebody just
happened,
get.
should it? It
It should
should
never
never have
happen,
happened.
no. But
And that's the
that
thing.
could the fact that it was on a ship is incidental, I think, is what I
Yeah.
guess is where I'm trying to get to. Like, this could have been in the pub on bank holiday.
I say to my boys all the time because they're 18. No, they're not. They're 19 and 24. And I say to them all the time, if somebody starts a fight in a pub, just walk away because, I mean, they can look after themselves. So just walk away because they could hit you wrong, you could hit them wrong. And,
Absolutely.
a friend of a friend actually has got brain damage from when we were teenagers, getting set about. You just don't know. So you've just got, but then, it's anyway. Let's change the subject because it's just. Ugh.
Do you get what I mean? Like, there's no end to this. I think it's just that whole thing of, I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about it because I don't like the fact that it created this narrative that cruise ships are not safe and, you're captive and people are going on them looking to start fights and to murder people. That's not what's happening. This is just one of those unfortunate life incidents that just happens to be on a cruise ship. Just certain sectors of the press, and we're talking the rag mag, they're thriving on it because they make money. Every time you click on it, you go on their website, they make money from the ad revenue. So they thrive on playing on your fears.
A lot of them now are sort of trying to make you pay when you click on
Are they?
stories. Yeah, but I only go. Do you know what I'm there for? Not with this because this is a horrible thing, but with a lot of the stuff, the trashy sensationalised. I'm there for the comments lately because they're all getting slated. Like somebody, you always get one person that goes on, reads the article, and then says, "Save yourself five
Saves
minutes
you a
of your
click.
life." This is in 2 lines. It's like, there you go. That's
I
the
high
latest.
five that person every time.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for
But
saving me a click.
so obviously that follows on to why we think it is safe. I mean, just for an example, when we're on Oasis of the Seas, which is just the new love of my life, is Oasis class ships. I just want to live on Oasis class ship. I just love it. I was that person, weren't I? I'm never going on a big ship. They're too big.
Yeah, literally, I
They're
don't think I'm
not.
going to enjoy it. Like, I'm interested, but I'm not going to enjoy it. And then when I
Yeah,
come back from Wonder, like, I had loved Wonder. You were like,
yeah,
maybe one day I'd like to try it.
yeah. I just can't. And I was trying to say to my friend the other day, who I'm trying to get to change to Harmony of the Seas, but she won't. But there's just so many spaces. It's just so spread out, and you've got chiller anyway. So when we're on Oasis, we went into Playmakers as usual, and somebody had left their phone. So I picked it up and took it to the bar and said, "This lady's left her phone. They didn't want to leave it." And he said, "Oh, don't worry." He said, "I'll put it behind the bar." He said, "But if she give her 10 minutes, 15 minutes, see if she comes back." He said, "But if not," he said, "we can trace everybody on the ship." He said,
I
our
was going to say,
security cameras," he said, "we can look at her face and know what cabin she's and where
yeah,
she's under the ship at any given time."
yeah,
So the security is phenomenal.
absolutely. This is the thing. People don't realize that. And I think this the amount of video footage and surveillance footage that is available
Mm.
from a cruise ship is crazy type of thing. But as you say as well, you have to have your photo taken to get on board the ship. So they have your photo on file. Modern ships now as well use facial recognition, which nobody likes hearing about Big Brother, but this is the reality of it. At the end of the day, in MSC World America, the whole ship is built with facial recognition built in. You don't even have to anymore scan your key card to get on the ship. It's all done via facial recognition. You walk up to a terminal, it scans your face, and it knows you're due to go on board because you've done all the pre-boarding stuff in the app, and it lets you on the ship without a problem. Like, it uses facial recognition to know where you are, where you were, type of thing. So they can trace your steps. So should something happen, should something untoward happen, there are ways they can find out about it. I've heard stories about a hate crime that took place on Disney of all cruise lines. A gay couple, lesbian couple were on board, and they had like a magnetic board outside their door. And it turned out, anyway, she come back to a cabin and found like a slur written on her cabin. She was obviously upset about it, reported it to Disney. But Disney were able to check the surveillance footage because they have cameras in all the corridors, this, that, and the other. They found that it was kids playing about, thinking they were being funny because they had like a Pride Mickey pin on their door. And they did tell the parents of the kids type of thing. And obviously the kids got a telling off. The couple didn't feel like they did the right thing by them, but they were able to find out who it was. So something, because it's serious if you're a gay person, don't get me wrong, there's nothing worse than your little safe haven, your cabin being vandalized type of thing. I get the anxiety around that. But it's a minor misdemeanor, and they were still able to find out who done it, what it was, explain it to the people who it happened to, and also find the family as well. You know, that's the level of surveillance.
You need to know that as parents, because if my kids had done that, I'd have, oh God,
Do you
if I'd
get me?
thrown them off, I'd have killed them. I'd have gone mad. So,
Yeah.
but as parents, you think kids make, honestly, and I know kids make stupid mistakes and think and make stupid decisions,
Yeah.
and they do stuff that you think, what possessed you? So to know and be able to educate, I mean, you hope you educate in the first place, but if you
Yeah.
don't, then. But one of Donna's cruises, because obviously we Royal Caribbean with the cruise magnets, and me and Donna would make the cruise magnets, or we were,
Yeah.
and put them on doors. Donna made loads of cruise magnets, but then other people were, and then one night they all got stolen on one corridor off all the doors, and somebody must have reported it, and then it got announced on the tannoy. Anybody that's had magnet nicked, please go to reception. And basically they'd followed on the cameras these kids all the way down the
Really?
corridors back to their cabin. They had a carrier bag full. They'd literally, I mean,
I shouldn't laugh, but the type of kid that I was, annoyingly, I was that kid. I probably would have done something like that and thought I was clever.
but then people get upset about their fridge. I mean, and do you know what I love about a fridge magnet, or a door magnet, is that I can find the cabin, and but some people do celebrations, don't they? There's all sorts of reasons, but yeah, they were all guest services, and people had to go and collect them, but it was a carrier bag. So again, there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, we're looking for transatlantic this year. We're going from Lisbon, and I've been looking for a hotel in Lisbon. Oh my God, it's well stressful. I just can't find the right one. And I found one and thought, this is perfect. Went on TripAdvisor, and 4 people had their rooms broken into.
Really? I think that's one of your biggest fears, isn't it? That when you go on holiday and stay in a hotel, I'm always terrified of the all-inclusive situation because I hear so many horror stories about kind of people who stay in all-inclusives and like housekeeping and going through your stuff and all that type of stuff. Like, it terrifies me of that happening to me because I take a lot of equipment. Like, I take my laptop with me, I take all my gadgets and technology, video equipment, this, that, and the other, and I leave it all in my room. I never think twice on a cruise ship for this reason we've talked about, of knowing the amount of camera footage everywhere. Because I've had it reported to me, the stuff I've been getting up to, like when I've got a little bit too merry type of thing. I know how much camera footage there is on a ship. I don't think there is as much in a land-based holiday.
No, I mean, this was an Airbnb, not an Airbnb. Well, it was an Airbnb. It was an apartment, and it was stunning. But I said, Chris, can't stay there, because of my laptop and stuff. But on a cruise, I mean, unless you're in a suite, your laptop doesn't fit in the safe. But I mean, our cabin steward, we just left it on charge, and
Yeah,
so
me too. I leave so much lying around. Everyone's like, "Do you not lock your stuff in the safe?" I'm like, I couldn't even tell you how to use the safe on a cruise ship. Like,
I mean, we do
never
use
even
the
think about it.
safe, but there's a lot of
Do
stuff that
you?
doesn't. Yeah, because I just think we always have.
Passport and money and things like
Yeah,
that.
we're in the routine of doing that, and we always have, and not because we don't trust our cabin steward, because it just is sensible to do so. But my laptop doesn't fit in, and so
I'm
it
so
doesn't go in.
bad because I'll forget the passcode for the safe, and then I'll have to ring my steward every day to remind me how to get back into it. So I just
Oh my God! So Donna and Darren on Oasis, every day their safe broke. their stuff spent more time. Every morning they'd come with a little bag. Can I put my stuff in your safe? We'll be like, yep. And every day
Oh
it broke.
God.
Literally, Donna and Darren are like viruses to safes. Everywhere they go, they break. Yeah, unbelievable. I just felt safe on all the cruises I've been on. I didn't feel unsafe on Virtuosa, really, because I didn't
No,
feel like
no,
anyone was aggressive. They were just
no.
paralytic, and that's what I
Yes.
didn't like, because I didn't
Yeah.
think it was. I mean, the lady laying on the toilet floor and her sister trying to pick her up, and I don't know if I've told you a story, but there was a woman stood up, and I thought she was waiting to go to the loo, and I rolled my eyes at her and went, "For God's sake." And
Really.
she went, "It's my mum and my sister." I thought, "Ah." So I thought, well, I'm not backtracking because they're disgraceful. They're on the bloody floor. So I said to her, I said, "Well, good luck." I said, "Because you've obviously come on holiday to be their carer." I walked out. There's no point me apologising. I'm too deep in. And she sort of half laughed as she leant down to pick them up. They were rolling around on the
Yeah.
floor. It was just like, so that was, and you don't. I mean, on was it Encore? Coming out of Miami, I was quite surprised actually, because I didn't think Americans drunk as much as us Brits, but they do.
No.
And
God.
some were
Yeah.
really drunk when we come out of cruise out of a port on that. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
getting drunk and falling over, is there? It's just
God,
when
no. I've
everybody on the
been
ship
there.
is.
Yeah, every voyage guaranteed there's at least 2 nights where I'm a mess to myself type of
Mm.
thing. I do make myself back to bed and I'm usually pretty well behaved, but like this is a story. I don't think I've ever shared this on the podcast, but when we were on Virgin the one time, there was this one particular sailor who was really rude and offensive to all the crew the entire time. Every time we bumped into her, she was speaking to all the crew like they were scum on the earth. And it was just rubbing me and Philip the wrong way. We were getting really irritated with her, and other people were commenting as well. And I think one night, and it must have been Scala night because I was very drunk in the galley, which is the buffet on board. And I left Phil. I was like, I'm falling asleep, literally, like in my plate of beans, falling asleep. I'm like, I'm going to bed. He wanted something else to eat. So I was like, fine, I'm going to go to bed. Anyway, the following day, then I'm in my cabin working weirdly. I think we were filming the podcast actually. And Phil had to go out of the room. I kicked her out of the room so we could film the podcast. He then comes back into the room afterwards, quite sheepish, very quiet. And I'm like, what's the matter? What have you done? He's like, well, security have just tried to find me because apparently when I was drunk, I told the woman who was rude to everybody about herself in like she was being very rude to the crew at like 2 a.m. in the buffet station, hurling abuse at them. So Phil decided to, quite sassily drunk, tell her about herself and then walk off and left her walk in. But because he was wearing red boots type of thing, the camera crew recognized him from the red boots because he's very iconic hair and beard at the moment.
Mm.
So they followed him on the security footage, followed him going backstage into the crew areas because it was late night. They were cleaning, so the backstage was open. So we went into the kitchen galley, got lost, come out, then went to bed type of thing. And they were like, no, we were just checking you were safe because the family who were with the woman, when they saw her reaction and she went back to her table and said, oh my God, guess what this guy just said to me? They were chasing after Phil to attack Phil, and all the
Right.
crew had to stop them from attacking Phil. So they were checking he was okay, that they hadn't actually like found him later on and attacked him later on in the ship type of thing. So they were playing back the whole scene to work out like where he was, what cabin he was in, and who he was staying with, the facial recognition, all this type of stuff. And they were like, look, at the end of the day, and this goes related to this whole thing about safety, like me and Phil are very passionate about the crew and how hard they work and looking after them. That we are a little bit defensive and protective of like the crew and that. They said to us, like, don't put yourself in that situation though. If somebody's drunk and they're being inappropriate, tell us. Tell us what's
No.
going on if you see something. Let us deal with it. We appreciate you trying to stand up for the crew, but you could have put yourself in danger and we don't want that happening type of thing. So it's like an anecdotal, like, Phil putting his foot into it like he does every now and then when he gets drunk, but we've all been there. But it goes to show like an innocent thing, like Phil making a comment to us saying like, you're being rude to the crew, calm down. She's kicked
Mm.
off to her family then saying like, who's this guy, blah, 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 blah. And that could have escalated into a fight on
Yeah.
not innocent, like just somebody, you're just like, I don't know, you're annoyed at somebody because again, this was a whole week. Everyone has commented about this woman, like we all noticed her. I don't know. It just, again, is that the crew do keep an eye on a lot of things. They have ways to find out type of thing, but it can just be something as innocent as that. Just making a
Yeah.
comment to somebody like, who do you think you are? And it could
I've seen
escalate
that
from there.
in Disney. Where did we stay? I stayed 24 hours. One of the Disney, the All Stars resort. And the way the people were talking to the staff, it was just
Yeah.
shocking. It was awful.
Yeah.
But saying that, last week we was in the Pesky Parrot, sat in the bar, and this woman comes to the bar let me find a cruise card. Oh, I've only got a Simpsons Universal one, but she comes to the bar and she's like that,
Yeah.
banging on
Trying
the
to get
bar,
attention.
and she just looked at me and went, "It's just nightmare getting a drink around here." And they were making my drinks. They brought it over, said thank you, gave her a tip. She was like, oh, and she was so rude
Yeah.
to them and tried to engage to us to call. And honestly, God, the bar staff were amazing. So we had to sit like that because I thought I am not making eye contact with you. She was so rude to them, so rude, just because she hadn't.
Yeah.
They were busy. It's not,
And that's the thing.
So
It's sometimes like your instinct, if you're a bit outspoken, like I can be when I'm in the right mood, your instinct is to say something and challenge those people.
mm.
But that can sometimes antagonize the situation as well and make it worse. And sometimes you're better off just kind of going like, yeah, or just walking off
Well, I
because it
went like
just isn't
that.
worth it.
And she
Yeah.
knew because I thought I am not making eye contact with someone that's rude to people. I am not doing it.
Yeah.
And the staff were looking at me after smiling. I mean, they were lovely. But just don't be rude to people. It's just
We have
unnecessary, isn't it?
said, the two of us, we feel like it's getting worse, like people being rude to the crew. And I don't know whether it's a post-COVID thing and the way people are to service industries post-COVID. I don't know what it is, but we've said like we feel like when we're on holiday now, more and more people feel they're more empowered to be rude to kind of like bar staff, cleaners, room attendants. I feel for the guys at the end of the day. They work so hard. They're on those ships 24 hours a day. They get very little time off. It
Mm.
doesn't hurt to not be difficult with them. I tell all my customers, if my customers have a problem on board the ship and they're messaging me saying this has gone wrong, and it's like ship side stuff, it's stuff I can't get involved in. Like, they want to change rooms and the ship's not listening to them. I always say to them, like, don't go back to sailor service or guest services and be a polite nuisance of yourself. Don't be shouting at them, calling them all the names under the sun and telling them this, that, and the other. Just say, like, look, at the end of the day, you know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. It's not fair, blah, blah, blah. Be a polite nuisance of yourself. You will get more out of them,
Yeah.
the crew, by just kind of like airing your grievances in a polite, positive way, but just being quite firm with them. You don't need to be hurling abuse and you're ripping me off and I'm never going to go here again and you'll be out of business because I'm going to tell all my friends. They don't care. They really don't care that you're going to tell all your friends not to sail with them because thousands more people are coming on the next week who will be telling people to come back on board. Like, you just be a polite nuisance is the best advice I can give to somebody. If you find you've got a problem or you find somebody on board the ship is a problem, just politely tell somebody like, oh, I think they've had a bit too much to drink. That's all you need to do. And the crew will investigate and tell security to keep an eye on the situation.
I always feel like it's really good entertainment, actually, guest services on the first day. So I needed travel sick pills, so I had to get. It was day 2. I had to get in the queue, and honest to God, when you're thinking, and some people have got really genuine complaints, and I get it, and
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
gets sorted out. But some people just complain over silly things. When I got to the, because I have a man stands or a lady stands halfway, and when I got to them, and I said I just want travel sick pills, they looked relief. It was like, right, okay.
Yeah.
Give me a big pile. Have
Yeah.
'em. But yeah, and actually that goes on to just other things like that people ask for about safety. So people ask us all the time, can my kids fall off the ship? And yes, they can. They can fall off the ship. They can fall off the ship the same they can fall off a hotel balcony. But round the pool decks, you've got the glass, haven't you?
Floor to
It's
ceiling
solid.
glass.
So,
Yep.
but then, and this is the thing with kids not running about. I mean, all right, you want to give your kids a certain amount of freedom, but say, I don't know, when you're going on the top decks, it's the top of the ship. It can't be. And actually, on Royal Caribbean, around the sports deck, it is higher, but some decks it isn't. You've got to have your wits about you, haven't you? And think, right, well, okay, are they climbers?
100%.
Are they going to do something stupid? Because it's exactly the same as going onto a rooftop of a hotel, a rooftop bar. When they're on the pool deck, when you're, supervise them. My rules were, when the kids were little, we didn't have sea view balconies because to me that looks too soft. And Joe was a climber. So we used to get the aft balconies that were tiered at the back because then if he falls off the balcony, he's only going to fall in the balcony below and
He's
break
going
his
into somebody
legs.
else's balcony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that does, I mean, I'm not doing that because I want him to fall off, but I'm doing it because I think that looks like a hard
No, it's
landing.
peace of mind, wouldn't it? And it's I used to be an events manager and we have risk assessments and that's what they're for. They're mitigating the risk. It's not going to stop the risk from happening. It's what can you do to mitigate it? One, don't get so drunk if you've got kids with you that you can't keep an eye on them. don't let your kids run too free, know where they are type of thing, and give them boundaries at the end. And if they break those boundaries, there has to be consequences for it because they are on holiday. Doesn't mean you get to kind of go like, oh, well, somebody else will babysit them for me. They won't. Like, kids clubs are fantastic places, but once they're outside of the kids clubs, they're your responsibility to keep an eye on them.
Well, did you see the child? Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago that fell down in between the ship and the harbour?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was they went over the yellow line. Um,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they got was it a teenage well, they're not about an 8-year-old, I think.
He was like, yeah, he was an infant, I think, like 7, 8 territory type of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, they were walking too close to the edge of the ship. For people who don't know, if you've never sailed, at ports, there's always a big yellow line or a white line or something, and you're not supposed to cross it because you're too close to the edge of the ship, basically. An gust of wind or whatever, a splash of water as the ship does move in port as well. Like it's not perfectly anchored. Sometimes it'll just bob ever so slightly type of thing, and a wave could come up. So there's always a line to say, don't cross this because you're in the safe zone type of thing. And you could see it. There was a big line of people. They were all walking back in, and this one mother was walking so close to the edge, unaware of what was going on. She was, I think, watching ahead of herself, and the kid just strayed too close to the edge and fell right down the side of the ship. So lucky. I don't know
I mean,
how
and the
and what
thing
he
is, as a
landed on.
parent, like, accidents happen and it can happen like that, and I think that's just a thing of just, having your wits about you, but I'd say that for me, cruises are safe as long as you're not letting your kids I mean, even as teenagers, we would say you can go and do the flow rider, you can go do but then we'd amble on up and see where they were. They weren't running around the ship at night. If they could go to the club, um, and then you'd say, "Right, they got to the age where you gotta let them have self-checkout."
Yeah, yeah,
So,
totally.
they could go to the amusement arcade at night. They were not allowed on top deck, and it's just because and it's not that. I love my kids, but I don't expect anybody else to, and there's nothing
Yeah.
worse. I remember that was the Princess Cruise that it was a child for £1, and there were so many kids on, and they did their best, but they could and there was kids on there that parents just let them run oblivious, and they were running on the sunbeds. They were just it was like Lord of the Flies. I've never seen anything like it. But as a parent, I don't wanna look up and see have their kids around me all the time. I love kids, I love families, but you go away with your kids to spend time with them, not for them to be harassing other people. I mean, there's been one of the Mexican cruises, there's been kids running down the corridors, knocking on people's doors all night.
Yes, yeah, that's again, it seems to be in waves, doesn't it? You seem to find, I don't know whether it's like a TikTok trend or something. You see it, and then it seems to happen quite a lot for a couple of months. Yeah, it's
But that's also in all-inclusive hotels, it happens everywhere. So that's the point that I'm trying to make is that you've just got to be aware of your surroundings. Nowhere's safe. I mean, you don't know who's on that ship, do you? I don't trust anyone with my kids.
The one thing I will say as well is you need to keep into mind that thousands of people do these ships every single week type of thing. So the number of stories you hear about bad situations that happen and I hate using this of like demeaning anything that happens. Somebody falling off the side of a ship is awful. Somebody dying on a ship is awful. But on the grand scheme of the number of hundreds of thousands of people that cruise every single week around the world, the cases are very, very minimal. But the press and the media and blogs and Facebook and all that type of stuff, just some thrive on bad news. They make their money on bad news and they just run with it type of thing. It's such a minor case because you're more likely to click something negative than you are something positive. It's just a proven fact. We're all nosy neighbors like that type of thing. And unfortunately, these things spread like wildfire, which then empowers other people to try and jump on board with it. It just cruise is I would happily do a cruise any day knowing that it's safe and I have peace of mind.
Mm.
I've never ever felt in danger on a cruise ship at all.
But what's the common denominator? With all the things we've discussed, the common denominator is human error,
Absolutely. Yep.
human judgment, and that's what causes the problems. It's
Yep.
not the environment you're in. It's people drinking too much, people being a bit oblivious.
Yep. Not following rules, not, watching people.
On P&O, we had to get security because all the kids fell out, and then this I watched it. I watched this boy manipulate all these kids to be horrible to this girl, and she was screaming. So I went to security and said, "Look, I think you better break that up." Like, there was no parents about, but because I'm hyper aware of stuff. And anyway, you could hear the boy saying to his mum, "She caused so much trouble," and you only think,
Yeah.
"Ooh," ooh. But I thought, I am not getting involved in that. It happens everywhere in every walk of life. I mean, for me, obviously, I cruise out of, and it's not the kids, is it? It's adults are equally as bad. You've got to pick the people you want to cruise with almost. I like cruising out of Barcelona because I like cruising with different nationalities. And that to me is my perfect cruise port because it's mixed.
Yeah. It's the thing, isn't it? It's picking the right cruise at the end of the day, and we keep saying it. We've said it so many times. Short cruises are fantastic to get a snapshot taste of of the brand or a product or a cruise, but they're not a real representation of what an actual cruise is like. Even Virgin Voyages. I've been on the 4-nighter from Miami, and I had a lovely time, but it feels so different than a 7-night voyage in the Med.
Mm.
Feels worlds apart, totally different product. Like the 4 nights is party, 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 drink, drink, drink. I was like, oh my God, I can't cope. It's like 4 days of just nonstop on it, on it, on it. Whereas in the Med, 7 days, yeah, you still have those same parties, but they're spread out over 7 days, not crammed into 4 days type of thing. And
Mm.
you have those days to relax and enjoy the sea and enjoy a beach day or a pool day type of thing. Every brand's like that. Every brand, when you condense it all into 2 nights, is going to be a lot more hardcore parties, nightclubs, drinking, pool deck, because everyone wants to cram it into that short space of time. Whereas on a 7-night, 10-night, 12-night, whatever, they've got more time to enjoy the pool deck, to relax, to take in the theatre, to watch a show or two, enjoy a meal. They're just relaxing a bit more and it's a bit slower. So you don't have that intense, this is my time and I got to get on it type of thing.
Obviously, my most recent cruise, I can't even talk. The most recent cruise, Allure of the Seas, was on the back of the Easter holidays. And as we got on the ship, there was a lot of families and there was quite a lot of teenagers. And I remember the first day, and I love being around families, and that's what I really missed about on Celebrity. I missed the
Yeah.
families.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go in the middle of summer because my kids are grown up. Um,
Just a
but
little bit, like
yeah,
close
but
to it, not in
yeah,
it.
not I don't want to be the minority of like with no kids, but there was a lot of families because they were tagging on to the end of
Yeah,
Easter.
yeah.
And there was a big group of teenagers. They all sat on the floor, and I looked at her, and I was mad at myself for thinking it, but I thought they're going to be hard work, just because they
Mm,
looked like they didn't know what they were doing. And you know what? You never saw them because there was so much for them to do, and actually, that they were all from families that you could see they were with the families doing stuff, on family fun day, the families were all down there together, up on the sports deck, the parents were playing mini golf with the kids. It was really nice to watch, and there was no trouble. There was no kids being a problem on that cruise because they were either with their families, they were in the clubs were keeping them engaged and not shutting clubs because they're all Caribbean clubs, they're just amazing, they do so much with them. The sports deck was busy all the time, there was always sports going on, and even the little toddlers, when you were in a bar and you were sat next to them, the it was lovely, and that is what cruising is like 99% of the time,
exactly. Yeah,
and enjoying being around other generations and toddlers, and
yeah.
I mean, there was one family and this toddler was crying like merry hell. And the mum was looking at me and I said, "Don't worry, I'm just glad that I'm not you because I've been there." And she was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
right, that's fine." And she said, "Some people get really, really mad." And she took her off. She went on the carousel and she was fine. If everybody around you is a bit more understanding as well, I think, because parents have it hard. I mean, people straight away in these Facebook groups go for the parents.
I've never really witnessed it because I don't pay attention to family cruising, and Virgin, obviously, my
Mm,
core brand, isn't really a family brand. But I've been in a couple of groups and I've seen it firsthand now. I've
yeah.
seen how people turn on parents and like, well, you shouldn't be taking your kids on board and you should be controlling your kids. It's the other. It's like the kids just sat there enjoying themselves. Like I don't understand the animosity, and it seems to be a lot of the kind of hardcore cruisers who don't travel with kids, who have a big umbrage with kids, but they're picking brands that are kid-friendly brands. Like I don't know. I've never witnessed it before, and then now you pointed out, I pay attention to it a bit more, and it's quite bad. I think actually, it's almost borderline bullying.
I mean, you do get parents that are oblivious. You do. Um, but there's as many adults that are as oblivious as and rude as there are parents like that, and it's the minority. But yeah, we didn't see, as I say, that first day I saw all them teams and did judge them, and that's really bad as me because I'm a mum. But because there was just such a big group of them, and because of on P and O, they were a bit of a problem. But there wasn't anything for them to do. Where on Royal Caribbean, they've got the boardwalks, they've got the sports deck. There's so much for them to do. So I think it's just, but if I'd have been on Princess with mine were that age, we were there as a family, we were doing stuff together, so that's the difference, and if you want to do stuff independently of your kids, you've either got to find somewhere where they're gonna be in the club, or if they're older, that they're gonna be really super engaged with activities.
It is. It's important to pick the right brand. We keep saying this, don't we? You've got to pick the
Mm.
right brand for the type of crowd you're going with. And it's very, everyone does this. They're always like, oh, I would totally recommend some a celebrity have great kids clubs, but we've chatted about this, and I don't want to dwell into it because we've had a whole episode on it. But it's like you got to pick the right brand for the type of kid you've got. If you've got a
Yeah.
kid who needs to be stimulated, needs to have activities, they want to they want to do rock climbing and things like that. As much as they would have an amazing time on Celebrity, it's not that type of cruise line. You want to go on a cruise line like, dare I say, TUI, P&O, some of the newer ships where they've got rock climbing and they've got the kids' pools and things like that. They're the brands you want to go on. If your kid isn't somebody who's happy to sit there and entertain themselves and keep themselves entertained, they need that extra activity to entertain themselves. They're all fantastic for kids. They've got kids clubs. The kids clubs
Mm.
are great. Every brand has good kids clubs and good activity programs for kids. But, Royal, MSC, P&O to some extent, NCL, they are leaps and bounds above brands like Princess and Celebrity for families, is what I would say. And some people make that mistake as well. They put them on ships whereby they're not built for families. They just have family spaces. And that's a harsh criticism for some of the brands, but the brands themselves would probably go like, yeah, families have a lovely time, but
We used to sell on Princess and loved it, and our boys loved it. They loved the kids clubs. There's always a football pitch, so that's where they are, on the football pitch. But then we discovered Royal Caribbean, and as a brand, they're equal brands. They're both fantastic brands. But for them, it was the rock climbing, the flow rider, and then obviously the bumper cars, and I mean, and as they're now older, playmakers and being able to watch the sports, and for them that really they're very sport orientated. So for them that's, but then we've got very good friends that will only go on Celebrity because their daughter's more reserved. She always meets a really good group of pals. But she doesn't want the rah. She'd find that quite stressful. Whereas in there saying, right, well, yeah, meet tomorrow at 4 o'clock for a game of football, and
yeah,
they're,
yeah.
that's what they're doing. They're not hanging around the ship. They're meeting and doing all the activities.
Yep. I think you said it better than I was trying to say it. Everything you got to find is they're not bad cruise lines. You just have to be, what type of child do you have, and what do they enjoy, and how do they enjoy spending the time? Every child's different. That's not to say that Celebrity's bad for families. They have some great family spaces, but as you say, is it the more reserved? Are they going to enjoy kind of the activity clubs and kind of enrichment programs, style edutainment, dare I say? Whereas Royal is very much, they have that as well, but they also have all the jump pads, laser quest, all that type of stuff as well.
Do you know what though? We've done a transatlantic on Cunard with the boys and had an amazing time. And I mean, they did a club a couple of hours a day, but we played Scrabble because they've got a whole corridor, haven't they, where you can play board games. So we did Scrabble. We just moved along and played a different game. Like there was a puzzle set up, so every day we'd spend a bit of time on the puzzle, but we spent time together for a family. So that was also amazing. I think you've just got to look at what suits your family at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that goes back to the thing, and it's you as a couple, as a family as well, type of thing. Do you want your kids to be away from you in the nicest way? Like, and I'm not knocking that because I would be that parent. I would literally be like, right, in the kids' clubs, ta off you go, and entertain yourself, type of thing, because I want to enjoy my damn time. Or are you going away because some families don't get that enriched time together? They don't get to spend time and play board games and all that type of stuff. So they don't want their kids going off and climbing this and doing that, the other. They want to have that time together where they're watching films together in the cinema or watching them under the stars on Princess type of thing. They want that time. Very different types of cruises. So it's not any one shoe fits all. It's very much, you got to find the right cruise for you as well.
Well, there was a couple on our last cruise in the restaurant, and I only noticed them because the first night she kicked off and said she didn't feel very special enough in the restaurant. So then, you know how good they are. Then straight away she's got Tony, the concierge's name, and he's taking her to the table. And I'm like, you know what? Fair play to her. If she didn't feel special, then she should have said something. But we were
Yeah.
like, okay. Anyway, so every night they waltzed in past everybody else, went to Tony, got their table. I mean, we still got treated amazingly,
Yeah.
um, but on the very last day, I saw them with kids, and we hadn't seen them with kids for a whole week.
Really?
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
that you don't know, they could have really pressured jobs, and they,
No,
could
totally.
not get any time together,
Absolutely.
or they might not get any childcare at home. And the kids, I mean, we've talked about this before. My kids didn't
100%.
want to see us. They'd beg
Yeah.
to go to the buffet for dinner and then the kids club.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it's so unique. And I think that's why I don't like, this is unrelated to what we started talking about, type of thing. But I
as
think
usual,
nothing new here. I think it's just important though as well. We talk about it all the time. There's no right or wrong answer. When people say what's the best cruise line, I'm always like apprehensive seeing the answers because I'm kind of like, yeah, you're going to give your personal
yeah.
perspective rather than looking at it from a third party going, what type of kids do you want? What are you expecting to get out of it? It was like in your group, I think somebody said, I was told by somebody that P&O is bad for families. And it's like, well, no, you can have a great time on P&O for families, but what ship are you going on? What itinerary are you doing? That's going to play a part into it. It's not just a case of carte blanche P&O is bad for families. The ship is going to make a big difference of how many kids spaces they are. What type of kid do you have? Do you want rock climbing, splash pads, all that type of stuff?
Mm.
Or are your kids quite happy with a coloring kit? And there's no knocking kids who love that. I loved coloring as a kid,
Yeah.
and I'd happily sit and play on my Game Boy back in the day. And I'd be happily sat on a beach with a Game Boy and a coloring kit. And that would be my holiday. I'd love that. I sat on a beach doing that.
Mm.
Every kid's different and they need different things. So that's why I'm always a bit apprehensive.
I'll tell you what I will add though to this is going back to obviously our initial subject of Virtuosa, that very cruise. So there was a woman in one of the groups and she said, I was on this cruise with my kids, and I didn't see anything. And she literally got launched upon. Like loads of people going, why would you take your kids on a booze cruise?
Oh, mini,
What sort of
yeah,
parent are you? Anyway, so she come back, and I'm not going to say the name of the travel agent, but it was a very large one. And she said so and so travel agent sold it as a family cruise.
yeah.
So that's the thing, and everybody's selling it as different, aren't they? But
Yeah.
yeah,
And this is the thing, MSC is a fantastic family brand. They have a amazing
yeah.
water park, they have the rope climbing thing, they have the sportsplex, they have the kids clubs, they have the Lego partnership, they have the sports, bowling alley, all that. There's a fantastic ship for families. Probably not a two-nighter though. Probably not a two-nighter.
I saw a video yesterday that shared, and it was because obviously they've got the back of, is it World Europa and the other one, the 2
Mm.
Europas that are open. Is it
There's
World
World
America?
America and World
Yeah.
Europa.
So one of those had like the family day, because it's like it's like the boardwalk, isn't it? With the slide. But then they had all the Lego men dancing, and it looked really good. Like all the kids and that weird MSC man. I think he's a bit scary.
Yeah. He's got a
Um,
name. I forgot his name, but yeah.
yeah, but the Lego men, but it looked lovely, and all the kids were having a really good time, and it was a really nice video. So it just shows that one brand doesn't suit all, and they do a lot for families. And Donna loves it. Donna loves
Yeah.
MSC.
Yeah, yeah. No, they have a fantastic family program. Like, they do the same sportsplex. They've got all the water park. They've got loads of stuff, kids clubs, loads of great stuff for families. But again, it's the voyage will make a big difference. And in this case, I don't think I would recommend a two-nighter for a family without warning them that it's going to be quite a boozy crowd because that's what short cruises attracts. You can still enjoy the kids clubs and stay away from it all.
Well, I'm
You
gonna
just
put my neck on the
a little
line and say I wouldn't recommend a two-nighter for my worst enemy on any ship. And to
It's a tough
me,
one,
the
isn't it?
first day on the cruise, you write off because it's stressful. You get on, everybody's milling about, and like when you are new to cruise, you get on the first day of the ship, and our friends when they come, they didn't like it. They said, "Oh, it's so overwhelming." And I said, "Just wait." And then the next morning, the buffet restaurant is just horrible. It's chaos. Then it settles down, and then it's lovely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what
Everyone
you
finds
can't.
all the hidden gems, if you go. I mean, like on
Yeah.
the first day, everyone's going buffet, buffet, buffet. That day one buffet is my biggest hate. I hate going, and I do the same thing because I do the same as everyone
Oh,
else.
we don't do it.
Straight to the buffet as soon as you get on the ship to eat something, and I moan every time because they're lost, they don't know what they're doing, they're bumping into you, type of thing, and you can't find anyone to sit down. And I'm like, oh, this is annoying. I hate
Oh,
it. So we now go and find the other eateries. We look for
yeah,
like,
we
is
do.
there a poolside burger or pizza parlor or something? Because yeah, that buffet day one, not fun. Breakfast day one as well is also carnage because again, nobody knows all the hidden gems. They don't know the main dining room is also available. They only know the buffet's available, so it's just ramp.
We do room service first day.
I think we will on Princess. I think, oh, it's gluten
Yeah.
free and Phil. He just won't do gluten free room service.
No, they do.
No, he just won't risk it because he's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to want and whether I'm going to enjoy it. So he always likes to go and pick his own breakfast. So we never do
Oh,
room service
so you could get
breakfast.
an
I know.
omelette. You could get an omelette and some fruit and yogurt. That's what I do.
I'll try and negotiate with him, but I know what's going to happen. He's going to get his own way, but he's the one with the food allergy, not me. So, because then another big topic as well, and this is one that I've always been quite cautious about talking about because I know it gets people's backs up and it's a big fear of people when they do go on board a cruise. But it's kind of like people getting norovirus or having a virus outbreak on board a cruise ship. And again, there's this big fear that it's widespread and it happens all the time, and that cruise ships are petri dishes breeding bacteria. I've done I want to say 20 plus cruises, and I've never come down with the virus. I did catch COVID off the back of it, actually. That's a lie. I did catch COVID on board a cruise ship. Um, but that was a unique situation. Like, let's be honest, it was a big, wide pandemic at the time. I've never caught a gastrointestinal virus anyway on board a cruise ship, which is the one that everyone's fearful of. Have you ever?
I think I have once, but we've been cruising for 19 years. So that's one in all that time. But and y the things I do, I mean, and it's not again, it's not the blooming ship. I mean, the amount of times I've been behind someone in the bathroom and they've not washed their hands, and you're thinking,
Yeah, yeah,
"Bloody get." So, but what I do is I always, and they said they've got signs up telling you to do it anyway, but I, use
yeah,
the tissue to open the door or press the button and then put it in the bin. I
yeah.
never ever touch those, and I don't touch the handrails unless I really, really have to.
I can tell you hit the nail on the head there because I knew exactly when I caught COVID. I knew exactly because we were in an elevator and someone was coughing without covering their mouth in the elevator. And the second we stepped out, I said to Phil, if I catch COVID, this will be where I get it. And lo and behold, 2 days after getting off the ship, I came down with COVID. I knew it straight away. And as you say, it's not the ship because the ship was cleaning everything. They were going through all the bathrooms constantly. They were cleaning the corridor every day, disinfecting all the handrails. They were on the ball. I actually commented to say to them, this was MSC. The ship's really clean, like like paranoid level of
Oh,
cleanliness on
they're
board the ship.
spotless.
But if you're in the elevator and somebody is like instantly straight away, I was like, this will be when. And yeah, I did. And it's people.
But that happened to me last week, but not on the ship. On the EasyJet flight on the way home, the girl behind was coughing constantly.
Yeah.
Cotton, but she didn't have her hand over her mouth. And I said
Do you
to
get
Chris,
me?
I'm gonna, because I know, don't you? And I said, I'm gonna catch this.
That'll be
Because it
where.
was like,
Yep.
pop. And every time she coughed, I'd go like that,
Yeah.
really obviously. But I was well ill, and I know where I got it from. I got it from her coughing.
Yeah. Phil caught COVID again, same thing as you on a plane. Coming back from Disneyland Paris, the person I think behind him was coughing really loud, not covering their mouth. Yeah, we were wearing masks. You had to back then. But he instantly was like, this will be at this flight. This will be where I catch COVID.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he got COVID 2 days afterwards as well.
Yeah. So as far as I mean, I've only ever experienced it one time. I've been aware of somebody being ill once on a ship. I won't go into that story because it's horrible. But it was like that somebody having a gastro. That was once when we were on a ship, but it didn't affect us or anybody we knew. I've never been on a ship that's been closed down, and you know. But then again, it's like we always wash our hands. We always do the squirty things. Always. I don't touch the handrails unless I really, really have to.
I've been on one ship where it's gone down. I don't know if it was norovirus or not, but it was definitely a bad breakout of some sort of stomach bug. And it was actually our first ever cruise on Disney. And we knew it was going on, but Disney managed the situation incredibly well. So I think it was like day two, day three, by the time we got to Cozumel, basically. And when we come back off of Cozumel, all of a sudden service had changed. So in the buffet, it was help yourself, that type of stuff. And then all of a sudden overnight, it just changed. It was like, no, we will serve you the food. And you had to kind of wait for somebody to pass you every single food item. You couldn't self-serve soft drinks in the refill station. You couldn't self-serve yourself ice cream. And they were quite literally obsessively, you went into a toilet and as you came out, they were going in and cleaning the toilet type of thing.
Mm.
Now, Chinese whispers on a ship, and I'm sure there's got to be a new word for Chinese whispers because I'm sure that's offensive now, but I don't know what the shipboard rumors. Let's just say then shipboard rumors. They were like, it's the kids. It's spread through the kids clubs because the common denominator was it was parents with kids who were coming down with it. Us lot in the adult only area, we were all like, I don't even know what's going on. We're all fine and dandy up here. But apparently, like it went through the kids' clubs like wildfire and took out a few families type of thing. And there were a few families who were quarantined for a couple of days on board the ship.
Uh,
But I didn't notice anything apart from, like, say, that minor service change. We couldn't serve ourselves in the buffet, and they were hyper obsessed with cleaning like handrails. They were following you down the handrails all day, wiping them down. Toilets were being cleaned as soon as we finished in them. Perfectly fine. Didn't notice a single thing. It didn't change anything for us. They didn't announce anything on the ship.
no.
Now, legally, they do have to. If a ship has more than a 3% outbreak of any sort of stomach bug, they have to report it to
No.
CDC. So when a ship breaks out with it. And I
Yeah.
think we get a handful a season of these breakouts. Don't get me, it's bad that it happens, but the common denominator, and we've just said it, is going to be people not
Yeah.
washing their hands.
I mean, it happens in hotels, doesn't it? It happens everywhere. Like as I say, I got that cough off a plane. It could happen. I try to avoid plane toilets where possible for the same reason. But the time I had it, I didn't leave my cabin for I was two full days and 2 full nights. I didn't leave the cabin because I wouldn't go out and. It's like the other week when I had the flu. I was meant to be off the person on the plane. I was meant to be at the theatre for the press night of Knight's Tale, which is the latest thing out, and I didn't go. And I could have dosed myself up on paracetamol and gone, but I just remembered that the last time I went to the theatre, the lady I was sat next to, I was talking to, had just
Yeah,
finished
yeah,
chemo, and it was her first trip out from having chemo, and I thought,
really,
I'm not going and spreading it when
yeah.
I could be giving it to someone. So it's just about. I know that that's extreme, but I was really rough. But if people wash their hands, it wouldn't be and use tissues. I mean, like you say in the lifts, like when you see someone cough into their hand and then press the lift, and you think defeats the object. You might as well
Do you
spat all
get
over
me?
us.
Like, oh.
And that can happen in any lift in any walk of life,
Do you
can't it?
get me? Exactly. Like, it's I don't feel like ships are any dirty. In fact, I think they're
They're
cleaner. I
cleaner.
see they're hoovering every day. They clean your cabin every day. They may not deep clean it every single day, but they clean your cabin every single day. There's hand sanitizer stations now post COVID. That was a good thing about COVID. There's hand sanitizer everywhere on board ships. So me and Phil on again, Virgin's our main one, but every time we walk past one of the stations, we just do it out of instinct now.
Do you
It
know what
doesn't hurt
though?
anything.
I think there always has been on like Princess and Royal Caribbean are the two lines. Oh, and at Cunard, they're the lines before COVID we mainly cruised on, and they're all always. But I suppose because norovirus has always been a thing, hasn't it? So I
Exactly.
think like I mean, obviously it was a Princess ship with the
Yeah.
COVID, and I know that those ships are spotless. I've never. I mean, all right, there's always anomalies, but
There was a reason why cruises were the first form of tourism to open up, was because their health and safety standards are already so high because they have to defend against potential outbreaks of norovirus and various gastrobugs like that, because you are, yes, captive. You are in the same space as each other, so there's a higher chance of it spreading. But they already had measures in place to protect it. The way that buffets are done, the way that dining is done, the contact points, contact tracing, the fact that there are sanitizer stations everywhere, the fact that you are asked to wash your hands, washy. Every time you go
I
in
love
to get
that.
your meal, they're asking you to wash your hands. There's a reason why you have to do that, and it's to reduce the spread of bacteria. But that's why they were the first to restart, because they had all these processes in place, and the land holiday resorts have caught up with the cruise industry.
And I swear by this, and I've said it all since COVID. Not one hotel reported an outbreak. I'm
No,
sorry. They
and
just
then I don't think
didn't.
there's anything that requires them to do so. No.
Yeah, exactly. So, but cruise lines have to by law.
Yes.
So there's the difference. All the cruise ships that obviously had outbreaks, of course we know about it because they have to by law report it. But the reason you don't see it in hotels and the reason we get it on MSN. Oh, it's a floating petri dish. It's like, well, you stick to you then. You do you. But the reason that you don't hear about it online is because they don't have to report it. I mean, there was a hotel, I can't remember, it was Turkey, I think, and I was following a stream of videos on TikTok, when you go down a rabbit hole. A
Yeah.
couple of
Is this
weeks
this
ago,
year?
it might have been
Is this
last
this
year.
recently? Oh, okay, yes, because there's one recently that's going around as well. Then it's reopening for the new season, and apparently it's had a massive
Oh,
outbreak
yeah, it
again
was
of
probably
stomach
that
bug.
one, from last year, and the amount of people that were ill, and they would not, they won't acknowledge it.
So apparently, like everyone's gone on to like TripAdvisor to give negative reviews about the hotel. So the hotel have used bots to create fake accounts to give them positive reviews to try and bury all the negative reviews type of thing to hide the fact they had such a bad outbreak. Because again, there's no way the hotel didn't acknowledge it. They didn't own up to it. So the only way people could do it was to complain to either their tour operator or to the hotel directly. And the hotel just went, so we're open next season as well if you'd like to come back. And there was loads of really positive reviews to try and bury all the negative reviews about how bad it was. It was all down to food hygiene. They were storing food and
Yeah.
preparing food.
Yeah, it was food poisoning, wasn't it? And not listeria. Was it listeria? There was loads of
Something with
people.
an L.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was loads of people. And they don't even have to report that. We're on a cruise ship. That would have been a one and done because it'd have been dealt with, sorted, and people would have been looked after. So
Well, they do a deep clean. If ever the ship goes over that magic 3%, then they technically have to deep clean the ship then as well. So what they'll do is they'll delay embarkation for the next sail-in once they get back into port. Like it's about 4 or 5 hours extra, basically, they give themselves to deep clean the ship then from top to toe, just to try and then contain it to that particular previous voyage.
and that's the one thing I will say about MSC and the MSC cruise I went on Virtuosa. How the blooming hell do they do that? How do they turn around every
Do you get
2
what I mean?
days?
Yeah.
Because the ship is spotless. I mean, it's full of people that are laying on the floor drunk. Well, only the short sailings, but the ship is spotless. It's absolutely spotless.
Yeah,
How
I
do they
kept
do it?
commenting. I do think like I think MSC Virtuosa was probably one of the cleanest ships I've ever been on because it's we joked about it all the time. But it's that is a Italian design choice. Everything's reflective on that ship.
Yeah,
There are mirrors everywhere,
I bet the staff
and
hate it.
everything's reflective. And I kept saying, like, day 5 into an all-inclusive cruise, the last thing you want to be reminded of is how much weight you've gained. And every
I know.
single elevator you walk into, it's just 360 mirrors type of thing.
Yeah.
But as you say, it makes it more obvious about how clean the ship is because there's rarely fingerprints on any surface.
No.
Everything's reflective. The floor, the mirrors, the walls, the glass, everything. And I kept saying to Phil, like, this ship's really clean. Like, I'm not worried about catching COVID until I went into an elevator. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a I agree with you. I was shocked at how clean I felt, at least anyway, on that ship. In the cabin, around the ship, it felt
Yeah.
incredibly clean.
No, I think they are, aren't they?
So, guys, I like equally this episode. We didn't really have a plan. We just knew, or I at least anyway, wanted to talk about this about like our cruise is safe because I'm passionate. I do think cruises are incredibly safe. There's just a big media machine and a big kind of like community around Facebook clicks and likes and clickbait that love it when something bad happens on a cruise ship. You just see it constantly. And I don't want people to be put off by it. Just even us talking about some of the horror stories, like I'm thinking like, have we actually
Are we
dispelled
doing
any
it any
myths? No, I think we just
justice? Yeah.
added to the but it is generally the short version of this conversation is these problems that you hear about on cruise ships happen on land. You just hear about them more on cruise because there's an easy angle on there because there are some people who don't like cruise and the media thrive on that. Facebook thrives on that type of thing. So I hope it at least has maybe made you rethink it when you see an article of kind of going like, is this clickbait? Is it actually as bad or as a problem as it is? And hopefully help dispel a little bit of that myth or that concern about kind of our cruise is safe. Like the two of us wouldn't be as passionate as we are about cruising and we wouldn't have done as many cruises if we didn't think the industry was safe. And I'm a big passionate believer of the cruise line does more than most leisure sectors to ensure they stay as safe as possible and stay ahead of the game. So yeah, I don't know if you've got any kind of quick final thoughts before we do wrap up.
Yeah, I'd just say that obviously we've brought up negative things, which I hate being negative, but well, I think we're being honest and saying things do happen, but the same's
Yep.
happened on land, but we feel safe and that's all we can say.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, if anyone is anyway not put off by going on a cruise and would love to sail on, what here comes the sales
Oh.
pitch to go on a cruise. But yeah, if you are interested, you live in the UK and you would like to sail on a cruise line and you want that help in finding the right sailing, so we don't put you on the wrong ship where you're gonna, obviously, have these issues. If you are somebody who wants to try a cruise for the first time, then I definitely would love to help you. You can find me online everywhere. And magical-traveler.com is the website, and my social media is magical_TRVLR. And then yourself, Sarah, obviously you have loads of guides, you have loads of content on various platforms. Where can the guys hunt you down if they're interested?
Yeah, you can find us on Cruising with Kids on our website, which has got tips and advice, YouTube and TikTok. And TikTok's where we're just really all over that at the moment and in love with the platform because we're literally sharing tips on everything and trying to share tips from a perspective of what you need to know and what's useful. So yeah, do find us over there because it's quite fun. And you see us as we really are. Mad as boxes of frogs.
I kind of enjoy that though. I kind of enjoy the candid side of it, of just kind of that raw first impressions type of thing. I think you get a more genuine
Mhm.
first reaction to things type of thing, which is quite nice to follow that. And I know Donna and yourself have got quite a lot of trips coming up this year. So I think Donna's on a ship every other month at the moment, isn't she?
Yeah, think
She's got
so.
like a year of cruises. And next year she's already booked up, ready to go. Plans. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.
Bye.